Right now, as you're watching this, you might feel completely untethered, like you're floating in some cosmic void between who you used to be and whoever you're supposed to become. Your old identity feels foreign. Your future feels fuzzy. Everything that once made sense now feels like it belongs to someone else entirely. But what if I told you that this disorientation isn't a detour from your path? What if this confusion is actually your quantum rebirth in motion? You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not failing at life while everyone else seems to have it figured out. You're experiencing something far more profound than a simple life transition. You're witnessing the dissolution of one reality and the emergence of another. And that process, that sacred unraveling, is exactly what quantum physics tells us happens right before a massive shift occurs. The feeling of being lost isn't your enemy. It's your evolution announcing itself. Because in quantum mechanics, particles exist in what scientists call superposition, a state where they hold infinite possibilities simultaneously until the moment of observation collapses them into one reality. Right now, you're in your own superposition. You're holding multiple versions of yourself in the same space. And it feels overwhelming because your linear mind is trying to make sense of a non-linear process. But here's what your logical brain doesn't understand. This liminal space, this uncomfortable not knowing, is where all transformation begins. You can't quantum leap from one reality to another without first dissolving the structures that kept the old reality in place. That dissolution feels like death, because in many ways, it is. The death of who you thought you had to be, the death of dreams that were never truly yours, the death of a version of yourself that was built more on other people's expectations than your own authentic frequency. Think about a caterpillar for a moment. When it enters the chrysalis, it doesn't just grow wings and call it a day. The entire caterpillar dissolves. Its cells literally liquefy. It becomes what scientists call imaginal soup, a formless substance containing the blueprint for something entirely new. If that caterpillar had consciousness during this process, it would feel exactly like you do right now, completely lost, utterly formless, wondering if it's dying or being reborn. You're in your imaginal soup phase, and just like the butterfly, you can't rush this process. You can't think your way through it. You can't control your way out of it. You can only surrender to the intelligence that's orchestrating this transformation from the inside out. Because what's happening to you isn't random, it's precise, it's purposeful, and it's preparing you for a version of life that your current identity couldn't even comprehend, let alone sustain. The quantum field doesn't operate according to your timeline, it operates according to vibrational readiness. And readiness isn't about having all the answers or feeling completely confident. Readiness is about becoming so comfortable with uncertainty that you can hold space for infinite possibilities without needing to collapse them into familiar patterns. That's what you're learning right now. How to exist in the unknown without making it mean something's wrong. Every spiritual tradition talks about this phase. The Christians call it the dark night of the soul. The Buddhists call it the bardo. Indigenous cultures call it the vision quest. Modern psychology calls it liminality. But quantum physics gives us perhaps the most accurate framework for understanding what's actually happening. You're not just changing your life, you're changing your fundamental frequency. And when your frequency shifts, everything in your external reality that was built on the old frequency has to reorganize or dissolve. That's why relationships feel different. That's why your career might feel meaningless. That's why places you used to love now feel empty. That's why activities that once excited you now feel hollow. It's not that these things were wrong. It's that they belong to a version of you that was operating at a different vibrational frequency. And now that your frequency is shifting, your outer world is recalibrating to match your inner transformation. This recalibration period is crucial. Most people panic during this phase. They try to go backward. They try to force the old patterns to work. They interpret the dissolution as failure instead of recognizing it as the necessary preparation for something far more aligned. But you can't build a new life on an old foundation. You can't step into your quantum identity while still clinging to the safety of your previous self-concept. The discomfort you're feeling isn't evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're doing something unprecedented. You're literally rewiring your neural pathways. You're upgrading your energetic operating system. You're allowing your consciousness to expand beyond the limitations that previously defined your reality. And that process, by its very nature, dismantles everything that feels familiar. But here's what makes this different from just falling apart. There's an intelligence guiding this dissolution. There's a deeper part of you that knows exactly what needs to be released and exactly what needs to emerge. Your soul is orchestrating this transformation with surgical precision, removing only what can't follow you into your new reality while preserving the essence of who you truly are beneath all the conditioning. Think about it this way. Your current experience of feeling lost is actually your higher self's way of creating space for your authentic self to finally breathe. All those roles you played, all those identities you wore, all those versions of yourself you maintained to keep others comfortable, they're dissolving not because you failed at them, but because you've outgrown them. You've reached a point in your evolution where being anyone other than your truest self has become impossible. This is what quantum rebirth looks like from the inside. It's not a gentle transition. It's not a gradual shift. It's a complete reorganization of your reality at the most fundamental level. And just like any birth, it involves a period of intense pressure, uncertainty, and complete surrender to a process that's bigger than your conscious control. The quantum field is infinitely intelligent. It knows that you can't think your way into your new reality. You can't strategize your way into alignment. You can't force your way into your next evolution. You can only become so present with what's dissolving that you create space for what wants to emerge. That presence isn't passive, it's the most active thing you can do. Because in quantum terms, observation is creation, and the quality of your observation determines the quality of what manifests. Right now, instead of observing your experience through the lens of something being wrong, what if you observed it through the lens of something being born? What if instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you started asking, "What is this making space for?" What if instead of trying to figure out who you're supposed to become, you simply stayed curious about who you're naturally becoming when all the pretending falls away? Your quantum rebirth isn't happening according to any external timeline. It's not following any prescribed path. It's unique to your consciousness, your history, your soul's trajectory. That's why it feels so disorienting. There's no roadmap for your specific transformation because no one has ever walked your exact path before. You're pioneering a version of human consciousness that has never existed until now. And that pioneering requires tremendous courage, the courage to exist without knowing, the courage to trust without evidence, the courage to stay open when every instinct tells you to close down, the courage to remain curious when uncertainty feels unbearable. This courage isn't something you develop despite the confusion. It's something that emerges through your willingness to stay present with the confusion. The old you needed to know, needed to control, needed to have it all figured out before taking the next step. But the you that's being born operates from a completely different paradigm. This version of you trusts the intelligence that's orchestrating your life from dimensions you can't see with your physical eyes. This version of you knows that confusion is often clarity in disguise. This version of you understands that not knowing is actually a state of infinite potential. Every moment you spend trying to return to who you were is energy spent resisting who you're becoming. Every time you judge yourself for feeling lost, you're actually judging the natural process of consciousness evolution. Every time you try to speed up this transformation, you're interfering with the precise timing that's required for this level of change to integrate properly. Your quantum rebirth is asking you to develop a completely different relationship with time. Linear time says that if something isn't happening quickly, it's not working. Quantum time understands that some transformations require what appears to be stillness on the surface, while massive reorganization happens at levels you can't perceive. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't occurring. Just because you can't feel movement doesn't mean movement isn't happening. The caterpillar in the chrysalis experiences what seems like complete stasis. No movement, no progress, no evidence that anything is changing. But at the cellular level, the most profound transformation in nature is taking place. DNA is being rewritten, new organs are being formed, an entirely different being is being constructed from the dissolved remains of what came before. Your quantum rebirth follows the same pattern. Right now, while it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. Your consciousness is being rewired. Your energy field is being recalibrated. Your vibrational frequency is being fine-tuned to match realities that don't exist yet in your current experience, but are already forming in the quantum field. The person you're becoming is already complete in potential. Your job isn't to create this new version of yourself. Your job is to get out of the way of what's already trying to emerge. This is where most people get trapped. They try to manage their transformation. They try to guide their rebirth. They try to control the process that's designed to teach them how to trust what they can't control. But quantum rebirth requires a level of surrender that the ego finds terrifying. It requires releasing the illusion that you're the one driving this process and recognizing that you're the one experiencing it. The intelligence orchestrating your transformation is the same intelligence that grows trees, that heals cuts, that beats your heart without your conscious intervention. This intelligence doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't need your help. It doesn't require your understanding. But it does require your cooperation. And cooperation looks like stopping the resistance, stopping the judgment, stopping the desperate attempts to return to familiar territory. Your quantum rebirth is inviting you to discover what exists beyond the need for certainty, beyond the addiction to knowing, beyond the compulsion to have it all figured out before you're willing to trust the process. This space beyond knowing isn't empty. It's pregnant with possibilities that your mind could never conceive because they exist outside the limitations of your previous experience. Think about the most profound transformations in your life. Did any of them happen according to your plan? Did any of them unfold in ways you could have predicted? Did any of them make complete sense while they were occurring? Probably not. Because real transformation always requires entering territory that's unmapped by your conscious mind. It always requires trusting something bigger than your personal will. Your current experience of feeling lost is actually your consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries that previously defined your reality. It's like trying to live in a house that's become too small. Everything feels cramped and uncomfortable, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you've outgrown the structure that used to feel like home. The solution isn't to make yourself smaller. The solution is to build a bigger house. But first, you have to be willing to live without walls while the new structure is being constructed. This is the quantum pause, the space between old and new, where infinite possibilities exist simultaneously. Most people find this space unbearable because the mind wants to collapse the possibilities into something familiar, something knowable, something controllable. But your quantum rebirth is asking you to develop the capacity to exist comfortably in superposition, to hold multiple potential realities without needing to choose one immediately, to trust that the perfect reality will emerge organically when the timing is aligned. The discomfort of not knowing isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's designed to break your addiction to false certainty and introduce you to the kind of certainty that doesn't depend on external circumstances, the certainty that comes from trusting your own consciousness, the certainty that comes from knowing that whatever emerges from this process will be perfectly aligned with your highest evolution, even if it looks nothing like what you expected. Your quantum rebirth is also asking you to examine what you've been using identity for. Most people use identity as a defense mechanism, a way to predict and control their experience, a way to know what to expect from themselves and others. But identity at the quantum level is much more fluid. It's not a fixed thing you are. It's a dynamic expression of consciousness that changes based on what's needed in each moment. The version of you that's being born doesn't need identity for security. It uses identity as a creative tool. It can be whoever it needs to be to serve love, to express truth, to contribute to the evolution of consciousness on this planet. This version of you doesn't cling to roles or titles or descriptions because it knows that its essence is far too vast to be contained in any single expression. This fluidity might feel terrifying to the part of you that's been relying on fixed identity for survival, but it's incredibly liberating to the part of you that's always known you were meant for something bigger than the boxes you've been living in. Your quantum rebirth is freeing you from those boxes. It's dissolving the walls that kept your consciousness contained in limited expressions of who you thought you had to be. And this dissolution is happening at the perfect pace for your system to integrate. If it happened too quickly, you'd be overwhelmed. If it happened too slowly, you'd lose momentum. The intelligence orchestrating this process knows exactly how much dissolution you can handle at each stage. It knows exactly when to remove old structures and exactly when to introduce new possibilities. It knows exactly how to guide you through this transformation without breaking you. Trust this intelligence. Trust this process. Trust that feeling lost is not evidence that you're off track. It's evidence that you're exactly where you need to be for the next phase of your evolution to begin. Your quantum rebirth isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. And every moment of confusion, every wave of uncertainty, every experience of not knowing is actually your consciousness expanding into greater capacity for authentic expression. The butterfly doesn't emerge from the chrysalis with a map of where to fly. It emerges with wings and an innate knowing that it was born to soar. Your quantum rebirth is growing your wings. It's developing your capacity to navigate realities that don't exist yet. It's preparing you for a life that's so aligned with your authentic frequency that you won't need to think your way through it. You'll simply live it. So if you're feeling lost right now, good. If everything feels uncertain, perfect. If you have no idea who you're becoming, excellent. These aren't problems to solve. They're signs that your quantum rebirth is proceeding exactly as it should. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not doing anything wrong. You're dissolving into your next evolution. And that dissolution, uncomfortable as it is the most natural thing in the universe. Welcome to your quantum rebirth. The you that emerges from this process won't just be different. It will be unprecedented. It will be a version of human consciousness that has never existed before. And the world is waiting for exactly what you're becoming, even if you don't know what that is yet. Trust the process. Trust the dissolution. Trust that something extraordinary is being born through your willingness to exist in the unknown. Your quantum rebirth is the most important thing happening on the planet right now. Not just for you, but for collective human consciousness. Every person who allows themselves to dissolve and be reborn at this level is contributing to the evolution of our entire species. You're not just changing your life, you're pioneering new possibilities for what human life can be. So let yourself be lost. Let yourself be confused. Let yourself exist in the space between knowing and becoming. This space is sacred. This space is necessary. And this space is where your authentic self is finally free to emerge without apology, without compromise, and without limitation. Your quantum rebirth is the most beautiful thing you'll ever experience, even if it doesn't feel beautiful yet. Trust it. You're exactly where you need to be.